everyone, it's Jennifer from Fiber Flux. Welcome to the 2024 Granny Stashdown Crochet Along Challenge. This is a project we've been doing for many years. A lot of you have joined me on this project, and every year what we do is we collect all of our yarn scraps from the previous year. We're right at the beginning of the new year. It's kind of like a fresh way to start the year, gather up some yarn scraps, and we make a giant granny square. Now this is my granny square from last year. Every year we gather up all of our yarn scraps, put them together. I have a bin that I keep and I kind of toss them in throughout the year. Every time you finish a project, then there's just a little bit of yarn, not really enough to start a new project, but just enough that, you kind of hang on to it. So I came up with this idea many years ago, and a lot of you have joined me on this, and we make a granny square. Now it could be, if you make a large one, it could be a large blanket. I know a lot of you like to donate these. This one, I had so many other projects going on. This one I made smaller, and I'm going to donate this one to the local animal shelter, and it's going to be kind of like a mat. It's very thick, and a lot of them, the animals at the animal shelter, especially like the dogs and the cats, they sit on metal, and so this was made to be like a pad for some of the animals at the animal shelter. My local shelter collects things like this. So you can make them large, small, you can make lots of them. You can make several pads and give a whole stack of them away. You could make this for a gift. If you have some leftovers in someone's favorite colors or some exciting yarn that you've used throughout the year, there's so many possibilities for this project. And the aim is to really use up all those yarn scraps that are really just sitting around and have no other purpose. So as you can see, there is bulky yarn, thinner yarn, there's some cotton yarn down here at the end, there's gold yarn all through this, there's all different colors, and every single year it looks completely different. So today we're going to jump right in and we're going to start our 2024 Granny Stashdown blanket, okay? And again, you can make this any size you want. We're just going to be adding rounds. I'm going to show you a couple things today. I'm going to show you how to make a granny square. It's very easy. I have other more in-depth tutorials. We're going to go through it and learn how to make it together. I'm also going to show you what I usually do is hold 3 to 4 strands at once. What to do when one strand runs out, we just tie another strand on and it just keeps going, okay? I never know when I start one of these how big it's going to end up getting, what colors it's going to be, how different it's going to look, and it's always a really fun challenge. So let's jump in now and we're going to start our 2024 Granny Square. Okay, so this is just a small representation of the yarn. I have a big bin of it, and every time I have a little bit of yarn left over from a project, I throw it in the bin, okay? And what happens is every single year, I never think it's going to fill up. Every year it fills up, okay? So what we need is just yarn scraps that you have. You don't have to start out with a giant bin. You can start out with just a few balls of yarn, stitch up a little bit. When you have another project, when you add to your bin, then pick it back up then. You don't have to have a giant bin of yarn to start. You just need yarn scraps, and it can take the whole year. You can make 10 of them. It's totally up to you. So with that being said, I hold several strands at once, and I'm going to show you that in just a minute. We're going to be using a 10mm P crochet hook. This is my Furls Wood Streamline. I'll put the link down below so you can shop this hook if you're interested in it. So we're going to be using a pretty large hook. A tape measure is not necessary, but if you want to measure, if you're making something specific, sometimes, like I mentioned before, I was donating my last one to an animal shelter. They have specific dimensions of the places that they keep the animals. So if you need to measure as you go along, if you're making this for someone in particular, that is helpful. You'll just need a pair of scissors and then a tapestry needle at the end for some of your ends, but I'm going to show you how to weave some of them in as you go along. Because of all the yarn scraps, you'll definitely want to do that as you go along with this project, okay? So we're going to clear everything out and start working on a granny square. I'm going to show you how to make the granny square. When you run out of a color, how to add a new color in and just keep going, how to weave the ends in, and it'll just be a really nice start to the new year. Okay, so like I mentioned before, I hold multiple strands. I have here a purple one, a cream color one, kind of like a rusty orange and a gold. I just grabbed anything and everything I could find. I'm not picky. Some of the granny squares I've made in the past, one year I did all neutrals. I happen to have a lot of neutral yarn that year. I did all neutrals. One year I did all brights. I think the most fun ones are the most random and not knowing how they'll turn out. So I just grabbed 4 random strands of yarn, and we're going to learn how to make the granny square, and I'm also going to show you how to incorporate new yarn into your square as well. So to make a granny square, I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer so you can see. What we're going to do is we're going to act as if all 4 strands of this yarn is just one yarn. Okay, we're going to just treat it like it's one strand of yarn. So what you want to do is you want to wrap the yarn around your fingers to make a loop, bring the yarn behind the loop, reach in with your hook, bring up a loop, and tighten. Now as you work, you want to make sure you're incorporating all 4 loops, okay? You just kind of keep an eye on that. So what we're going to do, we're going to weave this end in as we go. We're going to try to do that as much as possible because of the amount of yarn that we're going to be putting into this blanket. So what we want to do is we want to chain 4. We're going to be making a ring, and we'll be working all of our stitches into that ring, okay? So to make a chain, wrap the yarn around the hook and bring it through the loop. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you can already see how interesting that looks. And then we're going to join in the farthest chain from the hook with a slip stitch to create a ring. So insert the hook into that chain farthest from the hook, wrap the yarn around the hook, and bring up a loop. So you'll have 2 loops on the hook. Bring that loop through the loop that's already on your hook. And then we're going to kind of open up that ring because we're going to work a lot of stitches into it. Okay, now we have our tail here. We're going to hold this along the edge as we work, and that will weave that in as we go. Okay, so to begin, we're going to chain 3 to start. 1, 2, sometimes it's a little snug because of the amount of yarn, and 3. And then we're going to work, this counts as a double crochet as a side note, still holding those ends along the edges we work. Then we're going to work 2 double crochets into the center of the ring. So to make a double crochet, wrap the yarn around the hook, insert the hook into the center of the ring, and bring up a loop. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops, okay? Then we're going to work 1 more double crochet into the center of the ring, just like that. Then we're going to chain 1. That's going to create our first corner space. Still holding those tails, we're going to do that around the whole round. And now we're going to work 3 double crochets into the center of the ring this time. So 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to chain 1 once again. And if you notice, I'm pushing this over just to give myself some more space in this square. Now we're going to work 3 more double crochets. 1, 2. Now make sure when you use your strands, everything's nice and straight. You might have to stop frequently. Okay, so that was 2 and 3. Okay, pushing things over if needed. Then we're going to work a chain to separate them, and then 3 more double crochet. So 1, 2. I'm going to get a little bit more yarn, getting it from all 4 of these yarn balls down here, and 3 double crochets. I'm still holding those tails along the edge as a side note, okay? Now we're going to chain 1, and now we're going to join to close the round. So we're going to count 3 chains up, 1, 2, 3, insert the hook into that 3rd chain up, bring up a loop. Now bring that loop through the loop already on your hook. And it looks like a circle, okay? That's fine, that's normal. What I like to do though is these ends that we wove in, give those a nice tug and get them out of the way because there's a lot of strands and we want to just keep everything nice and neat, okay? Now, if we look closely though, we can see there's a group of 3 here and a group of 3 here. And if we kind of like sharpen up those corners. It looks a little bit more like a square, okay? Now, we're going to stick with this same yarn for now. We're not going to switch colors yet because we need to go over, this is our first corner space here where our hook is. We're a little bit ahead of it. We need to go across this area and work into this first corner space to start the next round. So our hook isn't quite in the right place. So you're going to go into the next stitch. We're going to slip stitch over. So go into the next stitch, insert the hook, bring up a loop. Now bring those loops through the loops already on your hook. Go into the next stitch and do the same thing. We're just slip stitching over. And then that last stitch, because there's 3 stitches, 3 double crochets, and now we're in the right spot. We're at that corner space and we're ready to work the next round, okay? So for round 2, we're going to chain 3 once again. 1, 2, 3. Work 2 double crochets into that corner space. 1 and 2. Remember, because that chain 3 counts as one of our double crochets, okay? Get some more yarn here. I just need to straighten it out. Sometimes when you have all these yarn scraps, sometimes you deal with some tangles, but that's great. You're using up yarn. Okay, so we did our chain 3, 2 double crochet, then we're going to chain 1, and then in that same space, we're going to work 3 double crochet, okay? So 1, 2, and 3, okay? So we have our first corner established here, you can see. Then we're going to chain 1. Then we're going to hop over to the next corner space, okay? So there's our group of 3 double crochet. That next, remember that chain 1 we did in between everything? That's called the chain 1 space in the written pattern. So in that corner, that chain 1 space, we're going to work 3 double crochet. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1 to create that corner, and then 3 double crochets in the same space. So 1, 2, pushing things over if needed, and 3. Okay? Now you can see it's starting to look like a little bit of a square here. All right, chain 1. Hop over to that next chain 1 space and we're going to do the same thing. 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3. Now chain 1, push things over as needed, and in that same space work 3 double crochet. So 1, 2, getting more yarn, and 3. Okay, now we're going to work this last corner, but we have something coming up that I wanted to point out to you. Our cream color yarn that we've been incorporating is out. We've run out, okay? So when that happens, what I like to do is grab the next color. I'm going to grab this like sage green color. And what I do is just take the yarn, tie it together, and we're going to just crochet these ends right in, okay? So just tie a little knot in your work. And see, I left the tails a little bit long on purpose so that we can snip them if needed. It gives you a little bit more control, okay? So when you run out of yarn, just tie a new one right on. So it's really exciting. We've used up one little leftover ball of yarn already, okay? So let's keep going with our square. We're going to chain 1, and I can feel in my hand that transition is coming. So I'm just going to crochet as normal, okay? So go over to that next chain 1 space, that corner space, and in that corner space, we're going to work 3 double crochet, 1. Now you can see the ends are kind of all over the place. That's okay. 2, and 3, just like that, okay? Now you can see the color is subtly changing. When you tie it on like that, the colors kind of change slower, instead of changing all 4 at once to 4 more. Okay, so let me get a little bit more yarn here. We're going to, it takes a little bit of coordination to work with 4 strands of yarn. There's some in all, like off camera, they're kind of like around me right now. Okay, so we're going to chain 1, do that last corner, pushing things over as needed, and then work 3 double crochets into that corner space. So 1, 2, and 3, just like that. Chain 1, and now we're at the beginning of the round. So remember, once again, we're going to count 1, 2, 3 chains up and join with a slip stitch to close the round. Okay. Now, again, we're not quite in the right place. We need to be over at this corner space. So we're going to just slip stitch over and just do the best you can. If it's a little bulky, it's all right. Just, you might need to like kind of wiggle your hook in there at times. And just slip stitch over 3 stitches, because remember there's 3 double crochets we're hopping over. And now we're at that corner space, okay? I wanted to point out too that there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of yarn, a lot of colors, a lot of textures. So because of its loftiness and its busyness, it's very forgiving, okay? So if you're learning to crochet, this is a very forgiving project. All right, so we're back at the corner space. This is the last round I'm going to show you because this is going to start incorporating corner stitches in our 4 corners, but it's also, we're going to have some side stitches to work. So we're going to go corner, side, corner, side, corner, corner, side, etc. Now, as your square grows, you're going to get more side spaces, but you'll always have 4 corners, okay? So the next round after that would be corner, side, side, corner, side, side, corner, etc. The one after that would be corner, side, 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 corner, and so forth, okay? So let's slip stitch over, or excuse me, we already slip stitched over, so then we want to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Work 2 double crochets in that corner space. So 1 and 2. And you always want to keep an eye out if you have some yarn that's about to run out. I think we're pretty good for now. Okay, so we want to chain 1 to create that corner, pushing things over as needed, and work 3 double crochets in the corner space. So 1, 2, and 3. Okay, then we're going to chain 1. Now we're ready to work in a side space. The side spaces are very simple. Just work 3 double crochet into that side space. So 1, 2, some more yarn here, and 3. Whoops, I lost a loop. Just make sure you have all 4 loops at all times. All right, chain 1. And then in that next corner space, work 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1, pushing things over as needed, and then 3 double crochet in that same space, okay? So continue around working corner, side, all the way around like we've just done. And then when we get towards the end of this round, we'll rejoin and we'll look at what we've done, okay? So I worked 2 double crochets. I'm going to work 1 more for this corner. Remember to do your chain 1s in between each grouping. And then again, the side spaces, corner, side, corner, etc. Okay, so let's keep going with our round 3, and then we'll rejoin in just a minute and finish up the round. Okay, we've come all the way around. We're just working that last side space with our colors. So once again, 3 double crochet, 1, 2, sometimes you have to go nice and slow to get all those loops on there, and 3. Okay, then to finish, we're going to join with a slip stitch in that third chain up. And we're not going to cut anything because we can just keep going. Okay, so round 3 is complete. So to keep going with your square, and I like to get those corners nice and sharp, just kind of straighten everything out. And so to keep going with your stash down project, what you're going to do is just keep going, repeating round 3. Again, like I mentioned, our next round will be corner, side, side, corner, side, side, corner, etc. So it will, as it grows, you'll get more and more side stitches. Now I like how the colors have completely transformed. And as you see these ends, remember we crocheted the ends in as we went? You can just give those little snips because we've worked those in. You may find them as you go along, but you can just snip them as you go. So we don't have any ends right now. They've all been crocheted in. And I like how the colors have changed a little bit. They look almost like mermaid colors right now. So the gold is still going strong. The purple's still going strong. Sometimes you have more of one color than the other. So it's helpful just as one strand runs out, just tie another one on, okay? So keep repeating round 3 over and over and over, really, until your square is as large as you would like it to be. I'm going to be sharing some updates throughout the year on social media as this grows. I like to kind of share videos of like how it evolves and changes and things. So I'll share some videos. You can find all the places to follow me at Fiber Flux down below. And I will see you as we work on this throughout the year. And please share your work. Use the hashtag FiberFluxCal. It's so much fun to see everyone's yarn scraps and how they all transform into a beautiful granny square. So I will see you for the next video. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and click the subscribe button to get all the latest Fiber Flux video updates. Thanks again.